This episode of the Ottawa Entrepreneurs Podcast is brought to you by Extension Marketing, the marketing agency that specializes in unique needs and budgets of small to medium-sized businesses. They provide turnkey marketing solutions that get results. You can find out more today at extensionmarketing.com. Now here's your host, Pat Whalen.
Thanks, Matt, for taking the time today to come on our show. Really appreciate it.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here.
Matt, let's start off with tell our listeners a bit about yourself and your company.
Our core company, Lemay.ai, is an enterprise AI consultancy. So right now in 2025, AI consulting means a lot of different things, but really what we seek to do is to help companies solve a lot of their problems with AI. So we see ourselves more as machine learning engineers. We come in, we help establish a strategy, we implement the strategy, we help them scale up that strategy in a cost-effective manner. And the purpose of all of that is to make sure that a company can make more money, save work and time. We find that staying away from AI for the sake of AI is actually quite interesting for us. And instead, just having a conversation with our clients about what actually makes a difference means that we approach our client situation through the lens of both management, consulting, and engineering at the same time.
When you mentioned having a conversation about AI by staying clear of AI, can you expand on that a bit?
Absolutely. So a lot of people think of AI as a means to an end. They think that AI in and of itself is actually the goal, when in reality, the point is problem solving with AI is really what you want to do. So if you see AI as an enabling capability, that makes a lot of sense. If you see the model that you're creating as being valuable, especially in a highly commoditized market that we're seeing right now, that isn't as valuable. What we tell not just our employees, but a lot of our clients and a lot of our partners is that typically with AI, there's easily 20 to 30 different ways of solving a particular problem with AI. Really, your job is to stay clear of the hundreds or thousands of alternative approaches that are just going to waste your time and your client's time. So being able to be in the right ballpark is really the skill. And that comes from being able to identify a problem, understand its objective, identify the requirements, and then have a path to implementation.
What do you find is the number one reason why people are hesitant to get into the to the benefits of AI?
Well, especially in this day and age, there are horror stories everywhere you look. Depending on which report you take this week, you're going to see 80% of AI projects fail, 70%, 90%. And that's true. These large digital transformation initiatives do not achieve the promise of AI being the be all and all of value creation that they expect to have. The most large companies that say we've replaced 40% of our staff with AI quietly announce a few weeks later that they have all these new job openings for people to help manage the AI systems. So that's kind of one aspect of it. Of at the same time as AI is broad and exciting, there's all of these other news pieces coming out saying AI is actually quite difficult to wrangle because it is. The reason why that happens, we find is again, we just find people don't have a clearly defined problem or a clearly defined objective or measures of success. So oftentimes you can do what's called swivel chair automation. So simple internal scripts to try and automate your banking activities, your back office automation, your invoicing cleanup. Those are very basic scripts and they should maybe be implemented within an afternoon. You don't actually need an AI consultant for that. You just need someone that can whip up a few lines of code. And yeah, there's some maintenance, but that's usually the one of the core issues. The other thing that we've seen in terms of AI adoption is a lot of people say that AI is good. They don't know how it would be good for them. So there's a big problem with contextualization when it comes to AI. A lot of people, what they try to do on the selling side is they come in saying, look at this incredible capability that I have, clustering, classification, automation, whatever it may be. But then the client says, sure, but how does this actually help me achieve value faster? How does it actually help me deliver what I'm trying to execute? And that disconnect is usually the issue that we're seeing. Hopefully, there's a lot of answers out there, which is talking about AI strategy and adoption.
Is there an ideal client, Matt, that you're targeting?
There are a few. So, in the archetypes that we've seen, first of all, established organizations that are pursuing digital transformation through AI enablement is a big one. We've done a few very large scale AI projects. So, we participated on the McCain project, we participated on the Leon's project. So, for Canadian listeners, yes, that McCain and that Leon's is the one that we're working with. And those companies, what they try to do is really look at how can they start adopting AI at every aspect of the organization to see where exactly there could be some value to be created. So that's kind of one type of client. These large companies that need a multi-pronged approach to be able to affect the AI adoption. The other type of client that we've seen is high growth startups, typically Series A, Series B, where they need a bit more team members, they need a bit more bench strength. They know that they need to hire, but it's going to take them 18 to 24 months to hire the team that they need to have. So instead, we come in and we deliver, thanks to our experience, we deliver in 3 to 6 months what this team would eventually be able to perform in 12 to 18 months. So just that accelerator is definitely where we're seeing a lot of value. And the last one that we're seeing right now is there's been a lot of private equity plays in modernizing companies with AI, and we've been in active conversations with a few players in the market.
And take us through, the different aspects of any business, operations, finance, marketing, sales, HR, et cetera, leadership. Where do you see AI currently having the most positive impact of those areas?
The one that we're seeing a lot is especially the high touch SOPs. So if you need to come in and say, let's take a manufacturing plant, and you say, well, there needs to be data entry when the piece comes in. There needs to be data entry after that, data entry after that. And when you're seeing a lot of disconnects between the first step and the last step, usually that's a sign that there's a data connectivity issue, a data warehousing issue. It's not AI per se, but it's usually driven by the fact that you can't use AI until that problem is fixed. So that's one very specific type of problem. The other thing that we've seen a lot of AI is all matters of supply chain, replenishment, purchasing cycles, seasonality, forecasting. That type of work is something that a client churn, all of those sales and marketing support tools are a big one. And finally, the rest is the deep tech. So how can I have the absolute best product out there? And if you're a cloud provider or if you're also just looking to build a standalone platform, making sure that you're powered not just by the Google and AWS APIs, but make sure you have a series of custom bespoke models that truly capture and represent what your situation and what your value prop is, does make a big difference when it comes to integration scalability.
And Matt, what advice would you give to a small business owner, that's kind of thinks AI is chat GPT, and then that's kind of the extent of it. And by small, let's say under 20 people. And there's a lot of those in Ottawa, a lot of
Yeah.
those across North America, quite frankly. But what advice would you give them to maximize the use or the potential of AI for a small business?
You can think of AI as a spectrum. So there's, of course, the Chat GPTs of the world that will help you, and Chat GPT is in and of itself getting commoditized. So we're talking in terms of various partnerships with IO.net. We're talking with Grok, GROQ. Those are platforms that abstract out models so that you just pay on a per use basis, which is much, much lower than paying on a per account basis compared to ChatGPT. And yes, it's open source models. It doesn't have as much of the functionality, but first off, driving down the cost is very important. Second thing is uh, these large language models are not going to do everything. Far from it. They're not really good at very large scale classification of sentences because of their context limitations. They're not really good at understanding complex patterns. They're not really good at necessarily creating a lot of structured output from unstructured input. However, the history of AI, like our company, we've seen four generational changes of AI already. And there are some classical methods that do create a lot of value. Those require a bit more expertise, but they do simplify the process when you're able to structure information. For example, one of our spinouts was an internal audit. And what we did for analyzing public markets reports is we downloaded all of the 10K and 10Q filings. We created our own custom classifiers to identify risks, controls, objectives. That data set was labeled with LLMs, but then the classification process itself was using a more traditional sentence classifier. And that in and out does make a big difference. So to your listeners, when we're talking about what does AI actually look like, its true power in this day and age is that it's anything you want it to be. And if you can think of a way to systematize a process through a flowchart, there's a good chance that you can use AI to automate it.
Matt, we didn't really touch on your background. So prior to, first of all, how old is the company? And then what were you doing prior to starting this?
So my background is a bit interesting. So we've now been working on this business for about 9 years. We officially celebrated our 9-year anniversary yesterday. And my co-founder and I have actually been doing this type of consulting for almost 10 years. So we started about July 2015. Previously, we had met at a medical device startup. So if you think of quality management systems and everything that is required to go to market with a brand new medical device, that's what we ended up doing. They came out of the university with a brand new idea. They were looking to develop it, commercialize it, scale it up. And with this particular process, me being one of the first employees, I think I was employee number one or number two, we went through the entirety of ISO 13485 or quality management system for medical device manufacturers. That process heavily influenced how we go about developing AI solutions. So there are definition of objectives, definition of requirements, stage gating of processes, stage gating of deliverables. All of that comes into play, especially when you're trying to build something that is very esoteric and exotic, like you would have with AI clients. So we find that that particular background has heavily influenced how we do our AI projects.
So, Matt, what advice would you give to a listener that currently runs a business and maybe struggling a bit as an owner? I'm sure you've had your share of ups and downs, and what advice would you give to that person?
There's a few things. The first one is boring works. So tried and true methodologies, they're not sexy, but if you have something that works, just do more of it. If something doesn't work, don't do more of it. There's a lot of trends of people promising new AI marketing techniques and all these lead gen tools, but if you're on the receiving end, you realize that you're getting more and more spam and you're paying less and less attention to that. So it may not be the best approach. Human contact, especially in a post-COVID world, is still the best. So we find that for us, having some FaceTime with possible clients, being able to provide them with value right then and there, sharing our experience is a very, very dynamic way of creating a lot of value. The other thing is, I forget who told me that, but the saying, do smart things, not clever things. So there's a difference between being smart and being clever. Being smart is being able to achieve results efficiency. Doing clever things is achieving results and everybody knowing that you're the one that was able to figure it out. Instead, you want to make sure that you're doing the correct set of activities. The third one, and this is more of a thought exercise for the listeners, is especially when we're talking about people that want to enter entrepreneurship. I was on a panel a few years ago on a data day at Carleton University, and the moderator was asking, well, what is it that you would have as advice for aspiring entrepreneurs? And my advice to them was, don't do it. It's easier to find a job. It's easier to do everything else. You're going to have more free time. You're going to have possibly more of a career. And yes, there's going to be some volatility. There might be some aggressive changes, but you're not going to necessarily lose years of your life by having a simple career compared to having trying to focus on entrepreneurship. And the reason I say that in this particular way is if your listeners still need to figure out what this entrepreneurship thing is, and they've heeded my advice to say it's a bad idea, but I still need to go out and figure it out, then by all means they have the substance that's required in order to pursue this. Because a lot of it, my day-to-day motivations hop from excitement to fear to greed to spite. And whatever you can latch onto to drive some motivation, sometimes that's what's required.
It's really interesting, Matt. I'm probably coming up to about my 100th episode of this podcast. And for the first 96, no one ever said this. What you said, the last four in a row, everyone has said that. Listen, this is not for everybody, and I don't know if this is trending in that direction. This is just a sheer coincidence, but I've often said, one of the challenges with shows like Shark Tank and Dragon's Den, as much as I personally enjoy watching those shows, is they glorify entrepreneurship, and they really, I don't think they show enough of the hardship and the sleepless nights and the sometimes failures. And to our listeners, Matt and I are not trying to be negative. We're both business owners, and we know what it's like. And you've got to have a certain thick skin or toughness about you to survive the hard times. And I know when I have people approaching me, Matt, I'm sure you do too, that are thinking of starting a business, and I'll talk to them within a few minutes. I know there's no way they're not gonna make it. They're just,
Yeah.
yeah.
The terms that I came across, there was fair weather entrepreneurship. So when everything's going great, when everybody's selling, when you have a few contacts, why not try and go out and do it on your own? You may be able to make a few more bucks, but you absorb the risk.
Before we let you go, where can our listeners and viewers find out more about your company and your offerings?
You can find us at Lemay.ai. That's Lemay.ai, and you'll see a lot of the industries and the projects that we've done in the past. You can also find us at various conferences. So we are speaking and presenting at the All In conference. We just spoke at the Toronto Machine Learning Summit about AI in regulated industries. And generally, we like participating in industry-specific trends or industry-specific conferences where we can show the AI trends that are emerging within that industry. So in those organizations and in those interesting conferences across the country, across the globe, we find that there's a lot of interesting conversations to be had.
Thanks for your time today, Matt. Really appreciate you doing this.
Absolutely. Thank you, Pat.
If your company or organization is looking to improve your marketing, go to the Extension Marketing website at extensionmarketing.com and book a discovery call today.